Well, hi everyone. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend and you're ready to get back to work for another week of intro to video production assignments. So with our first assignments, we really started slowly just so you could get the basics of moving some files around and sharing them with myself in Google Classroom and then putting them in a presentation so that everyone could take a look at those. So if you haven't had a chance already to download your Google Drawing and add it to a slide, and then copy that slide to our class presentation, please take a moment to do so. The presentation's unlocked for you. You still have editing capabilities, and go ahead and add your work to that. Now, a number of students have had an issue with Loom for recording video. I'm not 100% sure what that problem is, but if you want to use Loom, I'm more than happy to meet with you during office hours, and I can help you out with any of the problems that you might be having. One thing I would really recommend is once you have gone to loom.com and installed the extension to Chrome, that you sign out, maybe close your browser, possibly even restart your computer and try it again and see if it works. So Loom's going to be an extension. What you'll notice is that in the extension bar, there's a little Loom icon, and when you click on that, it'll give you options for recording your camera, recording your screen, or recording both together. For this first assignment, you really just needed to record video. So if you'd rather use your phone in order to do that, you're welcome to. Just make sure you know how to get files from your phone onto your computer so that you can upload them to your Google Drive and use in the assignment. So hopefully you didn't have any issues with that and you're ready to move on, and we've learned a little bit about each other. So this week, we're going to start off with some photography assignments. Now, photography is the foundation for video. So with any shot, you want to have good composition to get started. You'll notice right now, I'm here out in the woods at a friend's cabin in the coastal mountain range. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity to film a little bit outside of the studio and show you some examples. So you'll probably see some photos that I take around here. There's some waterfalls, there's just some really great woodland views, and I'll try and demonstrate as many of the examples as possible. So as always, I'm gonna start off with my slides. So let's jump over to the computer and take a look. Hello everybody and welcome photographers. I say photographers because this week we are going to get started into digital photography. So we're going to have a lot of fun getting out our cell phones, getting out our digital cameras, and taking some great pictures. So let's jump right into it. This week's goals is you are going to be learning how to take photos with whatever camera you'll be using. So whether that's a cell phone, a mirrorless, a DSLR, we're going to make it work for you. You're going to learn the rule of thirds and turn on grid lines on your camera. Some of you may already know this from last year, which is great. So we're going to review that. We're also going to try and take some pictures at golden hour if possible. That's that first hour of the day or the last hour of sunlight right before sunset. So the pictures turn out perfect. I'm going to show you some examples from that. Hopefully you'll get a chance to do that. And then lastly, you're going to upload some photos to Google Photos. You're going to make an album, and then we're going to complete something called the photography bio. First off, if you are taking pictures on a cell phone, we need to talk about focusing on a subject. You probably already know this, but just to make sure everyone knows, when you tap on the screen where your subject is, that is how you're going to get your focus. On many smartphones, you can also lower the exposure by holding and dragging downward. So try and capture your best shot so that the brightest areas will still have detail. It might look dark in some areas, but we're going to make some edits in Google Photos. It's the dark areas that you can recover. The overly white ones, like as I look at the picture of the clouds on this cell phone shot, you are not getting the detail back that is above the horizon there. It's just too bright. And so just quick little tip for you today about that. Okay, so when you're using your camera, whether it's a cell phone or a digital camera, you are going to want your grid lines turned on. So here is a screenshot of my iPhone with my grid lines turned on the left. And then on the right, that's looking at the viewfinder of a DSLR. Either way, you're going to go into the menu of your camera and turn on grid lines. I'm not sure how to do it on an Android or a Google Pixel, but generally just look through the menu, see if you can find the grid lines. That's going to be really important for our first lesson. So go ahead and do that. And here's a pro tip for you with just about anything. If you're ever stuck, just ask Google. Try and be as clear with your question. If you literally Google, how do I turn on grid lines of an iPhone, you will find some responses that will show you exactly what you need to do. And someone's already made a video for you about that. Okay, so here's the first rule that we're going to be discussing today, which is called the rule of thirds. And before I get into talking about the rule of thirds, this picture is a perfect example of the golden hour. So as you can tell, the sun is setting. It is just above that bank of clouds, and the light at golden hour is softer. It just makes people look better. It makes for a beautiful, beautiful evening time and even morning shots. So this is a golden hour shot. But most importantly, as we're talking about the rule of thirds here, is how this shot is composed. Okay, so this is the rule of thirds. And thinking back to why we turn grid lines on, or as if I show you an overlay of what that would look like, is I have used those lines to think about where I want to place my subjects in the photo. And I say subjects because I think there are multiple things going on in this picture. It's not just about those two people watching the sunset there, but it's also about the clouds and the sun, and it's about the reflection of the sun on the water. And all of those areas are close to those intersection points. So the rule of thirds, start with that grid line, and we'll get into explaining this a little bit more. Okay, so the rule of thirds is a rule of thumb or guideline which applies to the process of composing visual images in designs, films, paintings, and photographs. The guideline proposes that an image should be imagined as divided into 9 equal parts by 2 equally spaced horizontal lines and 2 equally spaced vertical lines, and that important compositional elements should be placed along these lines or their intersections, just like where those dots were in the last picture. Proponents of the technique claim that aligning a subject with these points creates more tension, energy, and interest in the composition than simply centering the subject. So when you first start thinking about the rule of thirds, just think about not having your subject right smack in the middle of the frame, but instead having them along one of the 2 vertical lines in your picture. Okay, so you're going to put the interesting elements, the most interesting elements of the shot where the lines intersect. And you want to frame the foreground of the subject on one of the vertical lines if you can. So picture those lines there. Why is this not? There we go. All right. So you may have, if you have a horizon in your shot, try the lower area that you put it along, especially if the sky is really interesting. If the sky is not as interesting and the ground is more interesting, maybe have your horizon along this top line. And then you can have objects on either side of these lines that'll help create some depth. And we'll look at some examples. Okay, so before you click a picture, always ask yourself, what is this picture about? And when I say that, I mean, think deeper than this is a photo of my brother. Think instead, this is a picture of a person doing something. So if you kind of take the personal element out of the photo and just think about what's going on with it, then you can start thinking about how would you arrange elements in a shot to make them look the most interesting. Okay, because obviously personal topics to us, I could take pictures of my pets all day long that are going to be interesting, but you're only going to find the ones interesting where I've used some really thoughtful composition. All right, so here's a picture of the Bubbler Benson's downtown, and you can see that I didn't center this, and by not centering it, I'm able to kind of bring in some of the background, even though it's way out of focus, kind of creates a little bit of depth. And you can see that following those intersection points, right where the water's coming out, where the actual spout is, all about just not having an image centered. So that's one example. This was a picture that I took in Rome a few years ago when I was traveling with students. And this photo is of the Pantheon. It's the roof. And I love this building. It's one of my favorite buildings in the world. And I was so excited when I got to take a picture of it. So when I got there, I tried taking some photos of it, and it was pretty tricky because it's a really large building, but getting all the shot in one frame was really tricky. So I laid down on the ground and I used the rule of thirds to take the picture to make it a little more interesting than just by having it centered. Now, this one could look pretty fascinating, also centered, just because of all the repetition and everything. Little side note here, notice how I have lost all the detail looking out the opening here. And That's something that I've learned over the years. I didn't understand that as well back then. But sometimes when you have really dark areas and really bright areas, you have to sacrifice one area. And in this case, the details inside the building were more important than the details outside. All right, here's a landscape shot I took in Astoria, Oregon. This is at Fort Stevens. And getting back to that horizon idea is look how the sky is not particularly interesting, but the grasses and the river leading towards me or away from me, I'm not really sure which, are a little more interesting. So I have my horizon along the top line. Notice also it helps keep a picture level. If you start to have a picture a little bit off level, as you take a picture of a really wide landscape, it's going to look like it's sloping really drastically over the course of the entire frame. And then you'd have to crop in and readjust, and you lose some valuable real estate. And I think having both of these trees in my shot are really important. They kind of make it an area to look down through that waterway there. So had I had to readjust this, I maybe would have lost some of that. So really important to use those grid lines just to keep your shots level. All right, here's another picture from Astoria. I think this was actually the same day. And here is another example of the rule of thirds where it's interesting. Sometimes people think to put the boat right in the middle of the shot, but this way I can bring the sunset into it by both having them kind of off center a little bit. And in this case, both the sky and the water are interesting that I didn't choose to put the horizon on either of those lines, but I still use the guides to keep the shot level. All right, and here is a picture of my two children at the beach. A lot of times when you're taking pictures of people, the rule of thirds can work as well. So notice that both kids are on the vertical lines, right? And kind of divides your frame up a little bit. Same with a hair and TV shot from a few years ago. You can see that we use this rule a lot just to where we want to space people in the frame when we're doing portraits of people. All right. There are two videos here that I'm not going to play through for you right now. I want you to watch both of them. So they're in the slides that are attached. The one on the left applies more to landscape photography, and the one on the right kind of just covers all sorts of things, as you can see from that Jurassic Park image there. So look into these explanations of the rule of thirds, really just be thinking about it. But the most important thing to keep in mind is keep your points of interest where your lines intersect. All right, let's talk about the golden hour and why it's so important. So the golden hour is the time just after sunrise and just before sunset when the light has a golden hue that is ideal for photography. So if you try and shoot then, you might see some magic. So I actually really love golden hour in the morning, and 3 of these 4 pictures are all sunrise pictures. So this top picture of Mount Hood was actually just taken here in Happy Valley. It's in a neighborhood right off of 152nd Avenue. And I knew that I'd be able to get a silhouette of that tree. So absolutely love it watching the sunrise that morning. Below it is the Columbia Gorge. That's Vista House and Beacon Rock, and the sun kind of coming through just looks amazing. This picture on the bottom here was taken at Rocky Butte in Portland, and I was just catching a sunrise, and watching the light in the morning was just amazing. And then on the top here, I have a sunset picture that was in the Yachats area from a couple of summers ago. So taking pictures of golden hour is really a great time to capture this light. During the day, light is a little bit harsher. There's stronger shadows. In the morning and right at twilight, you have some great times to take photos. So please go ahead and try and take some golden hour photos. Maybe you're not an early riser and you just want to try some sunset shots, but see how things turn out by using the golden hour. All right, so now that we've taken those pictures, we are going to put them into Google Photos, and we're going to use Google Photos to store and create albums that we share with the class. We'll also use the image editor tools that they have, and I recommend using it on your computer or Chromebook and not directly on your phone. It's fine if you use it directly on your phone, but it will sync your entire camera roll to your school account. So you may want to just kind of keep your personal camera roll separate from your school's camera roll And by doing that, you just want to get pictures to your computer first and then upload them. So you can do that a number of ways. You can use AirDrop if you have a Mac and an iPhone. You could use a cable and then read the files on your phone. You can get the Google Drive app, which is a great app to use, and you can upload pictures directly that way. Probably the most convenient way, I would say, by using the Google Drive. And then you're going to choose files to upload to Google Photos. So by clicking on the little 9 squares or the waffle and then choosing Google Photos, it'll bring up a page that looks like this. Your first time through, choose highest quality. It'll limit you to 10 gigabytes of photos, but I don't think we'll take 10 gigabytes of photos this semester, and you'll get a higher quality. You can have free unlimited storage that caps your resolution. So if you're taking more pictures than that, you could change it. At first, try and go to the highest setting quality that you can. It's not a huge deal either way, but if you can, I like to preserve the best quality that we can. Okay. All right, so when you're uploading a picture, what you're going to do is you're going to click on the upload button. And when you do, it'll ask you where do you want to upload from. Choose your computer. And then I took some screenshots from a Mac, which would bring up my Finder. And then you can see my desktop is there. And then I would select the picture like I have highlighted. If you're using a Chromebook, you would go into your Downloads Manager, and then you would find files that way. And then you're going to upload them. So it'll say uploading to Google Photos. Once they're uploaded, it'll say one item is uploaded, and you'll get the option to add to an album or a shared album. You are going to make a new album, and you're going to call it Your Name's Shots. So please don't call it Mr. Oliver Shots. Those are my shots. But you are going to do your album and just call it Your Name's Shots. All right. So now, once you do, you will see your album pop up, and you'll be able to add lots of pictures to it. So go ahead and take some golden hour pictures, take some rule of thirds pictures, and put them into your album so that we're able to see these images. Now, no one's going to be able to edit on your album once we change to permissions, but we're going to be able to see those pictures, and that's a way we're going to be able to share with each other without having to recreate or share just specific pictures. We're just going to have albums that we're going to share links to. So what you're going to need to do is go into the options. So those 3 dots there, right to the left of the waffle, when you click on that, you're going to choose options. And then when the options windows comes up, you are going to leave comments and likes on and leave link sharing on, but you're going to turn collaborate off. Don't let others add their photos and videos. I want these to be your photos in your album. Okay. All right, now the last thing you're going to do is you are going to create your photography bio. So I have an example there. What you're going to do is you are going to link your Google Photos album by clicking copy link. Those words that say my gallery, you're going to highlight, you're going to hit Control K or hit the link function, and you're going to link your album to that so that when people look at your photo bio, or when I look at your photo bio, which is your assignment for this week, I'll be able to just click on that and see that you've created this link. Otherwise, you're not turning in your gallery anywhere. So instead, where it says my gallery, please link that to your album so I'm able to check that out. All right. And then on the photography bio, you are going to do a number of things on that table there and then write your photography story. And here is that. So your photography bio is assigned in Classroom. You're going to add your link to the gallery by clicking the link icon or Control K when the text is highlighted, then copy the link. You're going to add a photo of yourself to the top. So maybe get someone to take a picture of you, or maybe you have a selfie that you really want to add. I like that I have a picture of me taking a picture. I think it's fitting. And then you are going to complete the table. So you put in your name, the cameras that you primarily use. My personal camera is a Canon 5D Mark II. My school camera is a Canon EOS R, and I also use an iPhone 11 for pictures. I really love taking pictures of bridges, pets, light trails, and stars. My dream vacation is to Australia. And one type of photography that I want to improve in is I want to improve at bird and wildlife photography. I struggle focusing on and framing objects that are moving. And a boring fact about me is I really hate wet socks if I'm not wearing shoes. It doesn't bother me if I'm wearing shoes and my socks are wet. But if I'm just in socks, if I step in a puddle like in the kitchen, it drives me crazy. So that's me. And then here is my photography story. 8 years ago, I purchased my first DSLR camera. It was an impulse buy by my wife one day at Costco. At first, I took most of the pictures of my kids' sporting events, but I soon became obsessed with photography. I purchased an ebook that was written by a Life magazine photographer and quickly wanted to learn how to capture great looking shots. I read the manual and I started watching photography tutorials on YouTube. I soon took my camera everywhere I went and was always practicing new techniques. The next year, I started teaching hair and TV and started using DSLRs for video. A few years later, I started teaching media arts full-time and made photography a big part of the class. That led to me teaching advanced classes such as this one. And I try and get out at least once a week to go on a photo mission where I try to get some great landscape shots. This summer, I started experimenting with long exposure photography at night, taking pictures of cars, stars, and other lights in the night. I usually go out by myself and really get in the zone and find myself getting lost in the process. Photography puts me in my happy place. So that is my photography story. This is my photography bio with a link to the gallery that you'll be able to see there. I'll have all this in Google Classroom for you. This week, you're going to do that. You're going to take a couple pictures. There's no real set number you have to take this week, but just get out and take some pictures, practice getting them into Google Photos, practice taking pictures at golden hour, and practice using the rule of thirds. Link that gallery and complete your photography bio, and that's your work for the week. I hope this went well for you guys. If you have any questions at all, please stop by my office hours, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. If you go into Google Classroom and look under the Classwork tab, you'll see the link to office hours. That's where you're going to go to contact me. If it's a Monday, Wednesday, or a Friday, please email me beforehand so we can set up a time and I can make sure that you get the attention that you need. If you just want to say hi or a question comes up on a Tuesday or Thursday, just drop in because those will always be office hours where you can get all the information that you need. So never stop creating, and I'll see you in the next video.